And you've spoken a
True.
lot about, the role models in your own life, the mentors, the coaches. Who's been the biggest inspiration for you in your life?
Really, which is quite cliche, I'll say my parents. Like my dad and mom sent me to entrepreneur and leadership camp when I was a kid.
Wow.
And I think it was the only camp that wasn't a sports camp in rural Cape Breton. And so I feel really lucky that the local university had this leadership and entrepreneur camp because, maybe I learned skills about taking some risks or trying something new, but I also built confidence to test ideas. And so I remember we did the egg drop where you try to
I've
wrap
done
the
that
egg
too.
up. And I'm like, okay, but it failed, but then you iterated and you figured out how to not make the egg smash. And so, from a young age, I learned, it's okay to take risks that are calculated. And so the calculated part comes later, where as an adult, I'm like, right, what does calculated mean? How much risk can I handle? And so that's where some of my other mentors came in. And so I had the first therapist, real life private practice therapist I met was Claude Millette, who I met through a practicum at Sick Kids. He took me under his wing, taught me how to be a therapist, what a therapy office looked like, what I should expect from clients. He became my clinical supervisor. He was such a support in the early days. The consultant I paid in the States, he was really helpful. I think more so at just helping me find the permission to do what I really wanted to do. I thought, well, if all these other therapists in America are doing it, why can't I? And so that really was a boost of confidence. And honestly, merging companies with what was my friend and now is my life partner, Jordan, has been a huge mentor and inspiration because he really understands the business and marketing and entrepreneur side of running a company. And that was where I felt I really lacked. Going from being strong clinically to being a strong operator is difficult. And so he really helped me to guide me through those processes, what I needed, what was important in running a company. And then honestly, I tell everyone this, you can't be an entrepreneur without a community. And so if you are starting your own thing, if you're a leader, if you're, running a business, you need a community. And so I'm part of 2 entrepreneur communities. One is for all females, it's called Dovetail. The other one is a mix of entrepreneurs all over the world. It's called Mastermind Talks, and both have really helped me realize I'm not alone. It's given me a community to seek support from, ask questions from, and it helps me to use that innovative side of my brain. And so when we meet and have mastermind calls, we can brainstorm together, we can support other people in their businesses, and it's really important. And early on, I think my first mentor, Claude, taught me this, but I think it's something, maybe he didn't realize he taught me, but I really carry, is that in our industry, there's no scarcity. So there's no scarcity of people who need help. There's no scarcity of clients who we can support. And so accessing help from fellow clinicians and, encouraging them to take the leap into private practice and encouraging them that they can do it has always been something that's been important to me, because I not only gained support and confidence from other clinicians, but I was able to then carry that forward and pass it on. And I think it's really important because you can choose in your line of work to be very closed off and think that everyone is going to steal your idea. Ideas are a dime a dozen. There's a lot out there. It's about who's going to execute. And so, having strong connections in your industry really matters. And that's the number one thing that I really rely on, is recognizing that really matters. And that's what I tell all new clinicians, is no one is competing against you. No one is you. You are the product. So how are you going to describe yourself as the product to a client? What are the things you're really good at? What are the things that will set you apart? And those are the things that differentiate you from the therapist down the street or in the same office who also has a similar specialty. And so it's really important. It's important to acknowledge that we're not competing against each other, and we can be each other's biggest supports. And that's, I think, so important when we think about community.
Yeah,
so
I love that. The
important.
abundance mindset, right? Versus the scarcity, which we're sort of like, when we go through school and university, especially in Toronto, where it's so competitive, like you're trained to think like there's not enough for everybody out there.
Yes. And I think it's so important that, there's no big secret about my company that I'm holding so close to me. There might be ideas that I don't want to share because, hey, I'm really going to make this happen and I'm working on it right now. But most of what I do on the day-to-day, I can share with you and I can encourage you to do the same. You might choose to do it. You might not. You might do it in your own way. You might do it, you might try to do it like I do. But I'm never recreating myself. And so, there is no scarcity. And that is really what I think sets apart a strong leader is how to innovate, how to set a vision, but you also know how to inspire people with that vision and recognize that they carry a lot that differentiates them from other people too. And I think that for me has been a really big learning as a leader. And I hear it a lot from other service-based industries is when you start a company, you think you're just going to hire a bunch of people like you and they're going to do the same thing you do. I learned that the hard way. It's like there are no clones. We're not going to do that. Everyone has their own strengths. So let's build on their strengths. And, we differentiate each other enough. But staying away from that scarcity mindset is really what will help you to grow in business.
And when you were growing your company, like, the first few people you've hired, or even now when you've grown it to such a size, how do you choose your team?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, I think hiring has been the biggest learning curve because as I said, I thought I'll just hire a bunch of me. Why would I even want to do that? I thought one of me is enough. And so then I started thinking I will hire for expertise. And I soon realized that it's not expertise that makes someone fit really well within our company. It's a piece of the puzzle, but I want to know that if you're going to work with me, that you're open to learning, you're open to growth, you're open to trying something new. You want to work with a team. And so Shift Collab is a group practice. We support each other a lot. So you don't want to be a lone wolf in the space. You want to work as part of our team. I don't necessarily hire for cultural fit anymore. I really value diversity. And so I don't want to hire the same people who have the same interests, who look the same. I really want to hire people that bring different views and different experiences. But there is, a general sense of wanting to have impact. And I think that's the thing that I look for. Because if you want to have impact, you're going to go above and beyond sometimes. If a client's in crisis, you might see them, after your shift time. If, there's an issue with your video software during a session, you're going to figure it out and maybe call the client because you care about that client's well-being. So usually impact is a pretty good driver. Strong client care. Those are good drivers. Recently, I pulled myself out of the interview process a little bit because we just hired a really great clinical director. And I started to think about, a company's culture is driven by hiring. Who are the people we're inviting into the company? And so I spoke with our clinical director about it and questions I used to ask. And we decided that the best way to do it is to make expectations really clear up front. So we are a group practice. Here's what we expect. Here's what you'll gain from working with us, but here's what we need from you. And then the other piece is just getting a sense of how will we market them? What kind of clients do they love? Do they love working with our same population? And then, we watch how they work because it is work to take on a clinical role. And there are parts of it that might not be super fun, like writing blogs. And so I look for the work ethic. And so we actually revamped our hiring process recently so that you have to go through the work before you get the benefit of seeing clients. And so it's, but I also think it's what happens after the hire. I never really thought about that until I started to think about performance planning and growth planning and how do we elevate the staff that we already know and love and how do we help them to feel really good and that they're growing. And so that's kind of what I'm focused on.
But that's so great that you focus on, that part about how do we nurture our staff now that they're with us, because the interview is such a short, sometimes you might do 1 or 2 interviews, maximum 3, but it only gives you a glimpse of that person's work. Like, they say it's really hard to judge how a person's going to perform on the actual job in the interview. Yeah,
it's so true. And, from interviewing for a while now, of 3 years, I've learned that if you ask Jordan what his favorite question would be, it was, what's your favorite candy? Because typically we put that on our onboarding form and we'll mail you your favorite candy. Now everyone knows, but we care about that. We want to wow the first impression. We want people to feel like we're excited to have them. But it's a learning curve. Hiring is not easy. The hardest thing, I think, of running a company is managing the people. And it's also the most important, because the company wouldn't be what it is without its people. And so really my leadership is only as strong as the people who I get to lead. And so I want to make sure that I have a team that thinks critically, that, can innovate, can do things. Some people are the people who are superstars, so they go above and beyond. They take initiative, they work really hard. Some people are rock stars. They're stable, they're steady, they get things done. And every business needs a mix of both. And so, I really, at first I thought, oh my gosh, I need all superstars. Why aren't these people, going above and beyond? And then I realized that my company needs both. And we all move between being rock stars and superstars at different times and points in our career. And it's really helping to find stability in the company. So I'm learning all about hiring and, having important discussions. But that, I think, will always be a learning curve.
Yeah, I love that you sent out their favorite candy. It reminds me of, I'm sure you know about Zappos and Tony C, how he said his company, even though they would sell shoes, it was like more about that customer service. Yes.
And that is critical. In the clinical space, we have a hard time with customer service. There's lots of kind of, clinical restrictions. I can't just mail things to people when I want, but we really work hard to consider our clients our customers, and we want good customer service. And that is our number one focus. And I think in all clinical or service business, that's what really matters. And sometimes we forget that. And so that's what I really strive for, because, we want our, what is it, like 1,100 raving fans, or, our biggest, best customers. We have champion clients who refer friends and family to us. And that is such a compliment. And that's the best compliment I can get. And so really that's the goal, is keeping the customer happy, obviously within reason, but it's also fun for the team. Like, I can imagine at Zappos, if something came up, the team can be creative in how they care for that customer. And I always think that's really fun.
Right. It's like giving that liberty to your team as well to make decisions, because a lot of the times team members or employees are sort of regulated by policies or by guidelines that limit what they can do, or, be creative. And I feel like your company is very different. Like, it allows them that.
Well, I mean, one of my first jobs was at the front desk of a 4-diamond hotel. And we just had that liberty. If I knew it was your anniversary, I could deliver chocolates to your room. And they let us have that autonomy. And I really carry that forward in our own company's customer service, because I could have an interaction with someone that could be so different from our frontline workers or our intake team, that if our intake team has a really good interaction, maybe someone says, I've been working late nights and I'm in school and it's really hard, send them the $5 Starbucks gift card. It's a small it's $5. It's a small token, but it shows that we're here and we care. And that goes a long way. Just being human. Like, forget everything else. It's the being human.